Dear friends, welcome back to Automate with Rakesh. In this video, I am going to talk around the connector builder in UiPath Integration Service. How does the connector builder work? How can you create a new connector? Everything in detail we are going to cover. We are also going to cover how do you fill the form. Once your connector you have created, there are so many information you have to fill it properly so that your third-party application works quite well. Your basic API authentication, how do you fill all this? I'm going to show a demo. And there are also certain resources will get created. How to utilize them, that is also important. I'm going to talk about everything. Also, I'm going to show you what is the package that you need in your UiPath Studio so that the connection that you have built, you can build a project and you can get some output from the API. Here you can see I have got certain output from that pet store API. I'm going to talk that in detail. So why delay? Let's get started. Before we get started with the connector builder, to understand this demo completely, you need two important things. First thing, decide on which application you'd like to build a connector. So for this example, I am using an open API from Swagger known as petstore3.swagger.io. How do you get that? Go to your browser and simply type pet store 3 swagger. Hit enter. So you can see you will get the website here, petstore3 swagger.io. Let me open this website. Now what is available in this? So this is a sample pet store server based on the Open API 3.0 specification. So what happens, you can get certain details. For example, if I give a ID of a pet, it tells you what is that pet. It can tell you, okay, if I'm entering 1, it tells you it is a dog. If I enter 5, it says it is a cat. So it is kind of a small database which you will be accessing through APIs. Okay, so this small application which has got certain random data inside that, and you can access those data using the connector builder in UiPath. Okay, so you will get this example quite clear as we move forward. So first thing what we need, this application. So I have made a note of that. This is the first thing I need. You also need something called API key. Okay, now how do you get the API key? Second step. For that, simply type Swagger Hub. Okay, simply type Swagger Hub. You have something called app.swaggerhub.com. So log into this. So it will ask you to sign in. So you can sign in with your Microsoft account, Google account, GitHub account and all that. Once you sign in, you'll be able to see something. I'm going to guide you. Let me quickly sign in. Once you sign in, you will reach to this page. In this page where you have your name, click on that. And then you would find something called API key. Click on this. So here you have the API key. This is quite secret. Do not share publicly. So you can see it is hidden, and I need to just copy the key and put in the configuration while in the demo, which I'm going to show you. Okay, so these are the two things you need. Log into petstore3.swagger.io, open this, and then sign up to app.swaggerhub.com and get your API key ready. That's all you need. So let's go to UiPath Integration Service. In this, how you access connector builder, let me first show you. For example, the connector builder is available on the top here. Okay, you can click on connector builder, or else if you go to, let's say I'm there in my workspace. If I go to connector or any folder, okay, doesn't matter. So if you go to this particular folder, you have something called build your connector. So if you click on this, it will also take you to the same page. So let me hit on build your connector. Once you are on this page, what you do, click on create new connector. Okay, here you have got two different options. Start from API definition, start from blank connector. For this demo, we will use this start from API definition. So what do you mean by API definition? If you see, Swagger has got so many API definitions. For example, it says if you would like to get some pet details, so you use get find by status, find by tags, get pet by ID. So that means you provide ID, I'll give you the name of the pet. Like that, all the definition has been defined here. So it has got API definitions. If you use this, what would happen? So it has got a page which has defined so many different commands for you to, or methods to get the required details, or post something, or you want to delete something, right? All of these different methods are available. So this is known as a API definition, where you have defined your APIs. So Swagger is a popular tool where companies build their APIs on Swagger. This is one of the popular tool. Okay, so now let's use this. Click on this start from API definition. Once you click on this, it gives you two different options: from a local file, from URL. These are the two options: from local file, from URL. I'm going to show you both the options. So first start with from URL. What is that? Once you have opened Pet Store 3 Swagger IO, on the top you have something called .json file. Do you see? This is a .json. Copy that. What is it? If you open it on a browser and hit enter, so it has got definition of all that you see in the user interface. The same thing is also written in a JSON format. Okay. Now what you do, if you save this JSON format to a notepad, for example, let me copy this, open a notepad and save this. So I'm going to save this as .json. This is JSON file. Okay. So file, save as. I'm going to save it in the downloads. Give some name and convert this .txt to .json. Hit on save. So this becomes a file now. Now I'm going to show you both the options. How do you use it? For example, if you go for from local file, the JSON file just now you have saved, you can click on this, click on open, and then hit on continue. If you do this, it will read that particular notepad file just now we have created, and then it is going to understand, okay, these are the things available. So you can see it has automatically pulled all the details. For example, the connector name is Swagger, Pet Store, Open API 3.0. The definition it has got. This is a sample Pet Store server based on the OpenAI. You saw in the website it was written. This is a sample Pet Store server based on OpenAI. So all the things it has pulled automatically. And different methods that are available, right? Pet by ID. So all these things that is there in the website, right? All of these things has been automatically pulled just through the file. Okay, this is one way. The other easy way is from URL. If you have a URL, so what is the URL? This is the URL .json. Copy this URL and paste it here. Do not copy. Let me copy it again. Okay, so this is the .json file you have copied from Swagger. This is the place you copied from, and I'm going to hit on continue. By doing this, it understands the same JSON file which you have stored in a notepad and saved as .json. You can directly provide a URL that will do the job quite easily. So you can see everything has pulled. All you have to do here is hit on create. Okay. All right. So the very first part is done. You have provided the .json, and now you have created the connector, not fully, because you have to provide so many information. You will find three different tabs: info, base API, and authentication tab. So how do you fill the info? The info will be auto populated. For example, name, API type REST. Remember, currently only the REST API is supported. Now you will get a question. Okay, Rakesh, what is the REST API? I'm not sure. Okay, simply type what is REST API. Okay, what it stands for? REST stands for a representational state transfer. This is one of the way to transfer data from server to the client or client to the server. It is one of the what do you say? You can call it as a methodology through which, or standards through which, the data will get transferred. So it stands for representational state transfer, REST. Okay, there are other methods also to transfer data. This is one of the standard method widely used, known as REST API. Okay, it's a standard of transferring data from the client to the server, server to the client, or vice versa, or any other thing, right? Or server to server, whatever it is. So it is called REST API standards. So now UiPath Integration Service at present, when I'm recording this video, at present, it is just supporting REST only. Okay, it is only supporting REST. So this all is completely fully fulfilled. You don't have to really do anything if you're using the URL. This is understood. Now the next thing, icon. You can, let's say I want to give it a different icon. You can have a JPG or PNG created, and then you can add an icon for that, or else by definition it will automatically pick that Swagger Pet Store open. So it will have this icon by default. Okay, so this is not very important. The info one that gets auto populated unless you want to make some modification. Let's go to base API. Okay, so how do you fill this? This is important. Now, what is the base API? If you see, it will be written somewhere here, base API. Let's look at. Okay, so the base API generally, if you remove this open API.json, right, this becomes your base API. Let me search base API. Okay, they have not defined it here, but again, let me tell you, the base API is generally until the version http petstore3 swagger.io API until the version is the base API. I found it somewhere, but I'm not able to locate it now. But let me tell you from experience, until here is your base API. So every application, they will define it. This is your base API. From there, anything you are opening, right? This remains common. After that, rest of the thing will change. For example, let me show you. For example, if I, so if you add, for example, store, let me take a easy one. Order ID, pet, in pet. For example, let's take this pet/pet ID. So what happens when you add this to that version 3/pet/pet ID, that becomes the ID for you to fetch something with the value pet ID. So that is the meaning. So this remains common. So that is why it is called base URL. So get the base URL. Let me type it for you. The third thing is getting the base URL. Okay, so this becomes your base URL. Copy this, go back to your connector builder, simply paste. So this forward slash is not required, but the moment you hit on save, automatically that forward slash will go. Okay, and then pagination type, pagination max. So what is it? Sometimes when you're retrieving some data, you might get the output as multiple pages where your output is there. Possible, you can get multiple pages of output. So in that case, it says you start from the page 1 and go up to max 100. Let's say there are thousands of pages coming. You only pick it until 100. So that is the number, pagination max. How many pages would you like to retrieve? Or let's say you are saying start with page starts with 0, page starts with 1, right? Maximum you go up to 100, and all of that different options are there. Now for this, we don't have to worry. All you have to do here is simply set the base URL. That's all you need to remember. Okay, great. Let's go to authentication. You are accessing certain thing. You actually need some kind of a permission, right? How will you simply access some internal application, some data from that application? You need certain permission so that the application understands you are the right authorized user to access the data. For that, there are different authentication methods are available. For example, the basic one, let me show you what happens when I go for a basic. Generally, when you select basic, it'll ask for username and password. So let me click on this, add connection. So what happens? Anybody who is trying to connect, it'll ask for username and password. Okay, if you go for basic, for example, if I go with API key, for example, if I go with API key and click on add connection, it will ask for, okay, enter your API key. It is more like a key password. So it is saying simply enter your key. I will allow you to connect. For example, if I'm going for authentication type, for example, I'm going personal access token. Let's say I'm going for PAT. If you have used Azure DevOps, you would have heard about that, where you would have a bearer token. I mean, it's more like a password only. Just consider it as a password, okay? So it's a token, it's a password. So here you have to enter the token, your bearer token, your specific password. So every application uses different terms. At the end, it is a password. It is more like a password, okay? So for this site, you remember I told you how to get the API key. So we will use the authentication type as API key. Because this site provides API key, we'll just use it. Now, if you use API key and hit on add connection, it will tell you, okay, enter the API key. One thing what you can do is you can simply copy the API key, go here, click on add connection. This will come and simply enter this and hit on connect. What would happen here in this case? Ask the user yes. That means every time a user is connecting, it'll ask them, hey, enter the API key. If you need that way, you can do that. Or else there is also another method. Let me show you. Click on edit parameter. And here it tells you, okay, value, use this set to a default value. So I'm going to enter that API key here so that it doesn't prompt every time. Okay, and I'm going to hit on save. But there's a problem with that. Only the users who have access to the folder will be able to do it. Okay, so if you wanted to have separate keys for everyone, you better keep it as ask the user. So in this case, because for the demo, I would simply say no, don't ask the user. Okay, even though it asks for the user, what would happen? It is going to have that default value there. So he can simply hit on connect. Okay, so here let me keep it yes, and I've given some default value of my API key. So everything is done. All you have to do now is hit on add connection after you have entered everything. And here, let me copy paste the API key and hit on connect. So this here in the default key it did not appear, but in the UiPath Studio while you are connecting, I will show you. While you are connecting the integration service, that time it will appear automatically. I'll show you that. So here what happened? The connector successfully connected. It is all connected now. Now, how do we test it? Whether it is connected, whether it is getting the right data or not, how do you really test that? That is important. So for this, what you do, here we will use, these are called resources, okay? Different methods to get something from the application. Here, let me click on get by ID. What I'm clicking, get by ID. And here hit on send request. So there are two different things, parameters, response, fields. So if you are using this method get by ID, you have to give a parameter, a value. Parameter means something you have to enter. You have to provide some input. What is the input it needs? It needs the pet ID. If you provide this input, then the API is going to get you all these details. Category ID, category name, ID name, and all that. So let's see it. Okay, this is the output. So this output values, you can use it in your UiPath Studio. I'm going to show you. For now, let's hit on send request and enter ID 1. I'm entering the ID called 1 and leave this override fields on send request as it is. No need to uncheck it. There are currently no fields for this resource. So if you have created some additional fields, then you should not check it. Okay, if you have created some, I need to pass another parameter. Generally a definition would have all the required parameters. In case you are defining some extra fields, then you do not check it. Otherwise, simply keep it checked. So in this case, we haven't created any extra fields, input fields or output fields. So leave it as it is and hit on execute. Okay, so what happened here? The moment I entered 1, what it has returned? The response. Do you see I've got a response? So what response I have got? Name is Pinky, and then small dog, and it is status is sold. Some data has come, some random data has come from the server. This is the response. Okay, so this is the body, and in the header there are a lot many things coming from the server as a response. Okay, so here the question that comes, okay, now our connection is working fine. We are getting, for example, let us try once again. Let me enter some ID, let's say 9, and execute. Okay, now it is a doggy string available. This dog is available. Okay, so I'm getting some response from the server with some kind of a data, random data coming from the Swagger server. Okay, sample pet server. From here, I'm getting the response through the API. Okay, now once everything is done, all you do is hit on publish. So your connection is built, everything is done. If you want to keep the documentation URL, you can probably copy this and probably paste it here and then hit on publish. So it will take few seconds and you can see the connection has been built. You have built a custom connector now. So how do you find that? Go to your folder or any folder. You can find that in any folder. For example, if I type Swagger in a different folder, you can see I've got it. Okay. So if I, whichever folder you type, it'll bring. So once you have the connector, all you have to do is connect to Swagger Pet Store. Hit on this button and the API key, we have given a default value. Remember, the same value has come here automatically, or else if you don't provide a default value, you have to enter a value here. That's it. So once you hit on connect, now what would happen? Now UiPath has got integrated with the third-party application, which is outside of UiPath. Okay, it's connected. You can see it says connected. Now if you hit on the activities panel, you can see these are the different activities that you can use. Now the very first question will come to your mind. Okay, where are these activities? How do I use it on UiPath Studio? That is the very first question. Don't worry. Let's go to UiPath Studio. All you do, the folder that you're connected, you select that folder. So in the folder that you have built that connection. So here, if you see, I have built this connection in this folder. If I go to finance folder, there's no such connections. If I go to my workspace connection, you have created a Swagger connection. So wherever folder, whichever folder you have created that, select it here. So once you have selected, the very first thing you do is go to manage packages. Okay. And type something called connector builder. Search for this connector builder. Right now it is 5.0. In the future, it could be a different version. Simply install and hit on save. That is the very first activity you have to do. Once you have installed this connector builder, then the next thing is how I use the activity. There are a lot of things comes to our mind. Okay, now I have built the connection. Now how do I really use it and get some data? No worries, it is possible. For that, all you have to do, go to activities and here under the available section, right? Install section, click here and then look for something called integration. Expand this. Then you would find, okay, it is showing me Gmail and Outlook, not this one. Let me click on integration service. Okay, integration service. And here you would find something called connector builder and object. Or else the simple method is simply type connector builder. And below this you have the object. So if I say data, what kind of data will you get? You'll get, you will do a record. You have to get list of records. You want to get list of all records. You want to insert something, update something. You would like to delete record. So, or update record. So these are the certain things you would like to do. Update record means already a row is there. You want to make certain modifications of certain data. So like that, these are the activities that you would perform on a data, correct? Okay. So here our main job is to see get record. Okay. We will use the get record activity here. I want to get certain record. If I pass an ID, if I pass 1, then it should get me what is the pet name assigned with the ID 1. Okay. So I'll use the get record activity. After that, because you are already connected in the integration service, you are connected to UiPath orchestrator, then automatically this is going to show you, hey, you have got 2 custom connections. One is Polygon IO and Swagger Pet Store. If you go back to your integration service, okay, and connector builder, in the connector builder, you have created 2 different custom. So here you can see I have got 2. Now for you, it could be 1, the Swagger. So the same thing should automatically reflect if you are properly connected. So let me select the custom one, which is Swagger. Then if you click here, it will automatically show which folder, under which folder it is, the connection is made. It is going to use that. Simple. Now select object. Now what is this object it is talking about? It's showing pet and store order. What is that? If I go back, for example, I'll open this connector. Here I have got so many things. Pet, right? Get by ID, right? Pet ID. So these are the objects. Store, Okay, what is the store order, right? This is another object. So there are multiple different objects, but again, user is also one object. But here, because I said it is for testing and learning purpose, so it is showing limited objects, pet and store order. Only two objects it is showing. That's fine. We'll go with the pet object. Object means what? This is one of the table in which you have got different data. You want to retrieve certain data. So this is a table, more like a table, SQL table, which has got pet information. Now it is saying, okay, give me the pet ID. How it is automatically coming? Because if I'm using pet, for example, which is that? Pet, yeah, the first one, right? This is the object. Here, if I'm using get by ID, this ID uses something called pet ID. This becomes the input. And this input is available under parameter. So whatever fields are there in parameter, the same field is going to automatically appear here. If I'm going to create a parameter, extra parameter, whatever I will define, the same thing automatically when you connect to that particular object, it is going to show it here. That understanding should be pretty clear. It is coming from the parameters tab. The number of objects are below here, the same thing will come here. And the response fields, this field is your output. These are the different outputs that are possible from the input. So if you give an input like this, for example, if you saw that last time I was running it. Okay, it's already published. So when I was running, you saw the response field. These are the different fields you can get as an output. So how do I use it? Let me first show you. Here, let me enter a value. If you enter a value 1 in string, there is an error. What it is saying? Compiler error. Open strict on disallows implicit conversion from string to integer. Why this error has come? Because if you go to parameters, this pet ID, the input, is of what type? If you click on this three dots, edit parameter, you will see this is of type integer. That's why it is throwing error there. Now you understood how they are interlinked? Very good. Now let's do one thing. Let's put it to integer format. Simply write 1. Okay. Now the question comes, okay, Rakesh, if I highlight this, right, how do I see? I see pet as an output. There is pet output. But will it work like this? I want the name. There are multiple output would come. I want a specific output from that. So how will I get it? For that, you have to click on switch to additional property view. Very important one. Switch to additional property view. Click on this. Okay. The moment you click, what would happen? You get a button here called manage properties. Click on this manage properties. Okay. Now let me enter the ID and hit on manage properties. Now it tells you, hey, these are the different outputs you can get from the server. You will get the category ID, you will get the category name, you will get the ID, you will get the name, you will get the status. Let's say I'm interested in name and status as an output. So select that and hit on save. So what happens here in the property panel, you got two different outputs. One is name and status. Let us create some variable, create variable, and I will say name, hit enter. Okay, the name variable is already there. Let me use that. Last time I had created. And okay, and the status is a variable. So I've created two different variables. Now what is the type of this variable? How do you know? Based on the definition. For example, response fields, if I go and if I look, the name is of what? String type. And the status is what? A string type. So let's go back to the UiPath Studio. You will see the variable that you have created. It is also will of same type, string and string. Clear? So this output, I was testing something. Let me remove that. So these are the two variables as output. Okay. So I have got the output name and status. Now how do you print it? Simply use a message box. And let me use the variable name plus, and I will concatenate with, let's say dog is available, something, some output will come, right? Status. Okay. Now let us run this and see how your UiPath Studio can connect to a database or an application, third-party application, and fetch some data based on the input you have provided. Let me run this through the custom connector. This is a custom connector you have built. Okay, let's see. Okay, this got executed. And what happened? Dog is available. I think I did not give proper spaces. Let me give some space here. Is, after is there is a space, save it, and let us change the value. Let's say I'll put some value called, let's say 9, and let me run it. All right. Okay, so here what the doggy is available, right? The status is available. You can go and buy that. So that is the output that has appeared through the custom connector, and you understood how to utilize that in UiPath Studio. This will be pretty helpful. This video will be pretty helpful if you try this first, and then if you have a third-party application, remember that third-party application should have exposed APIs. That means they would have already created API links, they have created a definition of all of that, then only you can create a builder. If your application doesn't have an API, then don't expect to build a connector just like that. So the application who has developer, the developer of the application, or whoever has developed that application, they should expose the API so that it can be used outside. If they haven't created any APIs for that application, then of course you will not be able to build it. And also the API has to be built on REST API standards. Currently in UiPath, only REST API standards are supported. Okay, I hope all this information might have helped you a lot. This demo might be helping you a lot in the future if you're working on any kind of third-party application where you have to build a custom connector. So thank you guys for watching. Give it a like and do comment if this video was helpful for you or not. Please do comment and let me know. Thank you guys. Your feedback is important. Please do provide your comments in the comment section of the video. Thank you. Let's meet once again in our next content. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.